Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. You can find us syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can find us on all the social media sites, and lots more things are a-coming. Since we are in Abbeville, South Carolina, we're so tickled to be there and met so many wonderful, wonderful folks. So been talking around, and we're going to be expanding the area even farther. So we're happy. I have attorney, author, speaker, writer, whatever. Don Brown was with us right now. One of my very good friends. We're going to be a little bit closer to you, Don.
It's good. The closer the better, Donna. Keep moving this way. We'll get you back after a while. You keep it up.
Well, we will. And so many exciting things to talk about. I'm so excited about President Trump's, it's nice to say President Trump, about his first week in office. What say you?
You and I never stopped saying President Trump, but it's nice to be able to say it so that everybody else finally recognizes it. What a not just the first week, what a first 24 hours.
Wow.
You know, it's interesting, Donna, I've talked to a number of people about this. Every president that's come into office in our lifetime have always talked about the first 100 days. What are they going to do in the first 100 days? That goes back to FDR when he was trying to ram the New Deal down the country's throat with all the orders he signed in the first 100 days. Well, this guy, Donald J. Trump, in the first 24 hours, let alone the first week, has gone on an absolute whirlwind in terms of one executive order after the other, and he's really cleaning a bunch of cancer out of the federal government. And, you know, you can kind of look in three areas. These orders have basically fallen in three areas. One, of course, is border security. You know, we're sending the 101st Airborne down there. Marines are down there. My buddy Pete Hegseth has now gone today with Tom Homan down to the border now that he's Secretary of Defense. The second is to attack and eliminate DEI in every vestige in every area of the government. And the third that was kind of personal to me, which I was excited about, was the J6 pardons. And, you know, it's interesting because we went through 4 years of Biden. I told somebody it felt like 40 years because of all the damage that fool had done to the United States. But he comes in where Biden does literally about 4 press conferences his entire presidency, and Trump brings the White House press corps right into the Oval Office for a marathon 2.5, 3 hour session with him as he's signing these executive orders. And of course, one that was near and dear to me was the J6, because I've represented or given legal advice to several J6 clients. Represented one in Washington, D.C. in front of Judge Chutkan. And by golly, 2 days after the president, we watched him sign it there on national TV. We get an email from the White House with a copy of my client's pardon. Boom. I've never seen anything like the speed and alacrity and an organization that this president has come out of the box with. It's like anything we have, anything we have ever seen. And it's I mentioned to you before we went on air, it's kind of like, Christmas every morning, what package are we going to open now, and it just gets better and better, it seems like.
Oh, it does. And we've been talking about this for a long time, you and I have, and a number of other patriots have as well. And I'll tell you something very interesting. So we bought a house, and so we're sitting at the round table, and the sellers are there, and attorneys, and everybody's there. And remember, Trump, he's signing his executive orders. I'm talking the day of the party, the day that he's coming in. He started throwing pens just out to people like that. And by the way, the lady we bought the house from said, "I want to know if you're a Republican or a Democrat." I said, "I'm a patriot. I voted for Trump." She said, "Okay, I wasn't going to sell it to you if you were a Democrat." And her husband used to be the sheriff in Abbeville, and they were Democrats then. And it was just terrible. So anyway, after starting, you start getting, hand cramps after so many papers you have to sign when you buy a house these days. So I got my pen and I started like I was going to throw my my pen out. But he's done so many things. And I mean, even little quirky things like that make you feel like you've got a real human in the White House right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fascinating thing about Trump, I've done a lot of talks and speeches and this sort of thing, and seen and heard a lot of talks and speeches. And this guy, he can go up and roll for an hour and a half without any notes at all. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that's so amazing about it. I mean, he's sitting there and talking to the press, and they may or may not like what he's saying, or they may or may not agree with what he's saying, but he's having a conversation with them. And people can relate to that. Nothing There's no phony political talk that filters in the way. And is, like I've said before, we talked about this. This is a once in a generation type of phenomena that we are seeing in terms of this president's leadership style and his command of communication, and the respect now that he's earning in all quarters. The Democrats understand they've been beaten thoroughly. They don't like it. They're complaining about the price of eggs after Biden killed 75% of the chickens,
Right.
try to avoid the bird flu. It's rather hilarious. But we're seeing gasoline come down, and we're seeing it here in the Carolinas. Well, you're in the Carolinas now, so you're probably seeing it too. But that's a direct product of the executive orders, again, reopening ANWR, reopening offshore drilling, and we talked about this. These orders we expected to be executed to basically eradicate everything Biden's done. But I must say, I'm very pleasantly surprised at the speed at which it is happening. I was thinking it's going to take him the first 90 days or so, but man, he has gone in with a scalpel and a chainsaw and just cut here and surgically eliminated there, and makes no apologies for what he's doing. And it's really a sight to behold for sure.
Well, what's really neat about it, but you and I are business owners. When we have to make a decision, we just make it and we just do it. I mean, we don't have to sit and think about it and just, we just make it happen. But another thing about him, and you mentioned this, and this has always stuck with me, what you said this months ago. And it was that, if you speak the truth, you can make eloquent speeches because you don't have to sit and think about what did I tell that person? What did I tell that person? That's why it's so easy for him to talk to the press. He doesn't say a different story every time he gets out there. It's the truth. And
the other thing is that he is the first Republican in generations. Not only to not, I won't say Reagan wasn't intimidated by anybody either, but this guy's taking it to a different level because not only does he not care what the press says, but he's willing to go after them and call them out for their BS. There's no other Republican we've seen that has actually called them out for their BS and done so without hesitating. And he's usually right. Kristen Welker was in the Oval Office, lucky enough to be there, or the press conference, White House press brief room. He calls her out because she's what about rating schools? Are you going to rate school? Whatever it was, and he just doesn't put up with it. And the people appreciate that. The American people, especially conservatives, have understood for a long time that the governmental media has been like the fourth branch of government and in bed with the Democrats. And we have been looking for somebody to really cut them off at the knees. And now we found out within the last week, Jim Acosta's gone from CNN. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And, I'm sure we're going to have some sort of press conference in the next couple of days, and I try to watch just about all of them. If I'm working, I'll have them on in the background, but it's really interesting. And it's sort of interesting. We was talking about tariffs the other day, and somebody said, "Are you really going to put tariffs on Mexico?" And Trump says, "Do you want to hear a political answer, or you want to hear it straight up truth?" I want to hear the truth. Yes, Trump says. Okay, so like I've told you before, I'm on a text chain with several other Republicans, and some of them still don't fully understand how Trump operates. Well, today what we see is Mexico caving like a frail petunia, and now agreeing to bring 10,000 of their troops to the border. As I explained to the guys, I said there's a method to Trump's madness. There's an absolute method to it. Somebody said you read the art of the deal, but the truth is on tariffs. If we get into a quote unquote tariff war with any other nation and impose tariffs on them, they got a lot more to lose of trying to play that game of Russian roulette than we do. And in 99% of the cases, they're going to cave, which is what we saw Mexico do. So just like we saw France, when Macron was trying to, and part of the problem is there's a huge trade imbalance. And that's what Trump's upset about. With Mexico, with Canada, the trade imbalance is pretty much out of control here. And he understands that.
Well, I think he understands this as well, because we've both seen this in politics. We said the Republicans cave. We saw Bush Jr. just being walked all over, and he just sat there and let the Democrats walk all over him. Well, the everyday person like me, we were saying, get up and fight, for goodness sakes. Why don't you just lay there? Why are you letting that happen? Well, other countries see this happen within our country, and they think of us as being weak. They think of us as not being able to take a stand on anything. But not only that, it's just, you've got to take a stand. We see pastors like that. They say, well, we Jesus wouldn't do that. I think Jesus turned over the tables. I mean, there comes a time you got to turn the tables over, and Trump's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I went after this radical left wing bishop at the National Cathedral the other day for her out of control left wing political speech masquerading as a homily, as they call it. A couple of Democrats come on there and said, Jesus said to show love. I said, how much love did Jesus show when he comes into the temple and he sees the money changers who are bastardizing the temple, and he turns everything over and said, my house is my father's house is to be a house of prayer. You've made it a den of thieves. And that woman was basically making the National Cathedral a den of thieves by preaching a left-wing political message that had nothing to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ, only to give herself a platform to be able to interview on the View. And as it turns out, the National Cathedral had been the recipient through some of its NGOs of millions of dollars of federal money. They set up these non-governmental organizations to go out and help with this illegal immigration. And Trump's cut all the money off to all these NGOs. And he sure did listen to what she had to say, So, but you're right. And they when it goes back to the issue of fighting back, it's been a very, very frustrating topic for conservatives for years. George Bush, nobody would fight back. Romney was a wimp. John McCain, extremely weak. Bob Dole, nobody would say anything. They take punches from the left and from the press. And Trump's the first one to take it to the jugular and understand and call out the left-wing press for what it is. It has simply been a propagandist extension of the Democrat Party all these years. And it is resonating. And I'm hoping, JD's looking pretty good so far in the way he's handled Martha Raddatz and some of these other, left-wing reporters, that after this 4-year run is over, that we as conservatives will continue to take the fight to the propagandist media to the extent that they continue to remain an arm of the Democrat Party.
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's talk about the bird flu for a moment. I question everything, okay, because I just do not trust the left on anything. They love to manufacture wars. Oh, they love bad news. These people live for it because they wind up somehow making money off of it. I went to the grocery store the other day, and I went on ahead and took a picture of it and put it on Facebook. And I was just right there, took a picture. 2.5 dozen. Of course, we have chickens, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm just thinking about everybody who doesn't have chickens. Okay, so 2.5 dozen eggs were like $17 and something. It was ridiculous in our little small town. How can people afford that?
Well, you can't, and that's coming about because Democrats kill the chickens. I mean, they're trying to. The Democrats are trying to say, look at what has happened to eggs under Trump. Trump's been in office. What now? Just let me see. Today is February the 3rd. He comes into office, so he's been in office 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And Biden killed 75% of the chickens or something like that. And of course, that's going to drive the prices up because whenever you restrict supply, prices are going to go up.
Supply demand.
And yet they act as if Trump is the reason for the egg prices going up. But I agree with you. They're looking for an excuse, whether it's this flu or that flu, to declare a pandemic or whatever they can, because the Democrats thrive. They thrive, and the left thrives off being able to control people. They want the government to be able to control, and creating crises give them that opportunity. I'm surprised they haven't tried to blow it up into something more than it is as of yet. I think Trump has them on the defensive on so many fronts, and he's squeezing their money. It's hard for them right now to really get back on their feet and be as effective as they were before.
So what do you think Michelle, Michael, whoever, Obama was not at the inauguration? Is there a little trouble going there between the Obamas?
Well, I mean, you know probably about as much as I do, except there's a lot of speculation to that effect. And I think Meghan McCain even, who now says that she supports Trump, by the way, even though she criticized him in the past, now says she supports him. But I believe she's alluded to that there could be some trouble there in paradise. And, Michelle Obama hasn't shown up twice now. She didn't show up for Jimmy Carter. It's one thing not show up. It's one thing for her maybe not to show up at Trump's inauguration because she's so upset that he has made this incredible, never before seen political type of comeback. But to not show up at Jimmy Carter's funeral, now there's a guy who all the Democrats at least ought to be paying tribute to. If you're a Democrat, you and I know that when he was president, he was the weakest president we'd ever seen, the worst president at that point that he'd ever seen. But Jimmy Carter, if he's in heaven, should be thanking, the fact that he no longer holds that honor, because we've had a couple, at least two, that are worse than he was. Obama was the most destructive, and I don't know which one was more destructive, Obama or Biden. Biden was most destructive in terms of the regulations and the absolute onslaught of DEI and all the woke junk they were pushing. Obama is the guy who started racism. I mean, Michelle Obama's a racist. Barack Obama's a racist. And rather than, using the fact that he was the first quote unquote African-American president to try to breach racial division, they simply, threw gasoline on the fire. So Jimmy Carter, rest his soul, he was the worst president in American history, at least in our lifetime, until those two clowns came along. And, but she didn't show up for his funeral, and who knows with her, she is quite the character. Said she never was proud of her country until this moment. She's kind of anti-American, and good riddance to her.
I say good riddance to her as well. Okay, let's talk just for a few minutes. Now I want to get back into the national thing, because that's my favorite. But I'm talking about local levels. Okay, a lot of people, and we've talked about this before, only vote during the presidential election. They think the local yokel stuff is nothing. But it is, Don. It really is. So we're having a crisis here in Alabama. And it's another reason we moved. We moved to Abbeville. I didn't see all the nonsense going on that I see in Alabama. Now, supposedly, we're a Republican state. But I'm seeing an awful lot of Democratic rules around here. I'm seeing it from the mayor's side and from the city council side. I told you about a city council meeting, where someone, illegals are just coming in, just ruining the town. We've had, I don't know how many demonstrations. The past 2 weeks, we've had a lot of demonstrations with the illegals, and they're holding the signs from the company they're from. Not an American flag now, but their flag with signs. Well, then why are they here? Why do you come if you don't like America, if you don't like the way it stands? But here's the deal. Okay, so now people, and we mentioned this before, and I want to go into it again. Okay, so you go to a city council member, and the city council people are supposed to be for the citizens of their town or their city. Am I correct on that? That's why we hire you, right? You look out for the citizens. Well, now all they say at every city council meeting is, well, Jesus loved everybody. I keep hearing that. And so my throwback is always oh, now is it okay to mention Jesus? Because up to now we couldn't. You were afraid a Muslim would get offended. You were afraid other people from but now we can mention Christ's name. Is that okay now?
Mm-hmm. Right. And of course, if you had done that a few years ago, if we had done it, they'd say separation of church and state. You can't mention his name. Mm-hmm. So isn't it interesting the way they throw Jesus' name around whenever they want to throw it around in whatever way they want to try to accomplish their political objectives. And that's all. Jesus never, Jesus' direction to us as individual believers is not the Bible's direction to government. And if you look at Romans, I think it's Romans 13 and 14, you see the basic purposes of government. And part of that is to punish the evildoer. That is a biblically ordained role of government. So is that, quote unquote, loving the sinner when you punish the evildoer? No, these people selectively will pull, they pull those love everybody, feed the poor, blah, blah, blah. They pull all that as an excuse to justify the welfare state. Well, those directives were never to the state. They were always to individual believers and to the church. And that's where the role should be. But you're right. They'll use Jesus' name, when it's convenient to push a left-wing policy, which they do. And I'm glad you're there to stand in the breach, Donna.
Well, I'll tell you, next time I hear that, if I'm back in Alabama and I hear that one more time, I'm going to ask to see their bank account. I want to see how much money has been put in their bank accounts, because that's my mind always goes there. Follow the money. That's right. That's why you're for it.
That's it.
But now they live in gated areas.
Of course.
Their homes.
Gated areas, and like Nancy Pelosi with a big gated house. The Obamas with big gates around their houses, but Hey, they never wanted the gate at the border, did they? No, just open it all up. That's what they wanted. So, you know.
Well, then you had the movie star, singer, whatever she is, Selena Gomez. Okay, so she's crying, carrying on, Well, she lives in a really nice area. Invite them into your place if you want them out of the cold.
Let them set up tents in your big front yard there, Selena. Bring them on in. You feed them.
Put your money where the mouth
is. The lady who's a billionaire. Spend several $100 million, to give them the money they need to go back where they need to go. Put your money where your mouth is, Selena. But no, the melodrama is just part of the Democrat act.
Yeah, you got to whine about something. There's always something to whine about. Okay, so enough of that nonsense. So positive things are happening here in the United States right now because of President Trump. I still think he's leaning, and I think you do too, leaning towards fair tax, flat tax, something. He's going to be working on no tax, I think, on tips this week.
Yeah, and of course, he's already, among the ideas he's floated is the idea of eliminating the income tax and eliminating the IRS. It's kind of funny. He talked about the 80,000 agents that Biden tried to hire. If they got guns, send them down to the border. Why does the IRS agent need a gun? Give me a break.
But you don't need one.
No, but I think you're right. I think there's a lot to look forward to still, and I think that's something that's very much on his radar. I think he very much wants to be, and already is, a transformational president. From that to like acquiring Greenland and taking back the Panama Canal to teasing Trudeau about Canada becoming the 51st state. There's a method to the man's madness, and it works. And it's fun to watch.
So, could that happen? Could Canada become the 51st state?
Well, I doubt. It could happen. Anything's possible. The Canadians would need to vote for that. There would have to be a smooth, and orderly transition for that. But I think, again, it goes back to what I was speaking about earlier when Trump's talking about immediate tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And then today, the Mexican president caves totally and offers to send $10,000 troops, Mexican troops, to the border on the other side of our troops to stop the flow and to make adjustments in their tariff rate or in their tax rate. My read is that all that talk is positioning, Trump is positioning himself and positioning the United States for a stronger position by the time it's all done. I don't literally expect Canada to be the 51st state. Wouldn't surprise me if Greenland becomes a territory of the United States. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And that's more likely. But I doubt that Canada's actually going to become a state. And I really would not want them to become a state because then they'll have 2 more Democrat senators. And we don't want more Democrat senators. We certainly don't want more Democrat members of the Congress because the Democrat Party is the most destructive force against the United States today, and it's got to be eliminated. So that'd be my concern.
Okay, so let's talk about the rhinos who are in office right now, who could actually put a cramp on the things Trump is trying to make happen. Who are some of those?
Well, of course, you've got the 2 women, Murkowski in Alaska. How they elected that woman, I have no clue. And then you've got Susan Collins in Maine. She's a big-time rhino. They both voted against Pete Hegseth. You've got, of course, Mitch McConnell, who should have gone a long time ago, voted against Hegseth. When you look beyond that, you've got Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, who's apparently opposed to Bobby Kennedy. He's been all over the place. John Cornyn in Texas is a rhino. Lindsey Graham often is a rhino. And those are probably the 6 right there that you have to watch for the most. And then some other ones will float in and out depending on the time of day.
But do you think with Trump in office, there'll be a little less rhino-ish?
Well, you would think, but you have Murkowski. You still have Murkowski and Susan Collins, and McConnell still voting against Hegseth for no good reason. So it just depends. It's kind of funny because Nicole Shanahan, who was Bobby Kennedy's running mate very briefly before Bobby Kennedy dropped out of the presidential race and ran for and became and endorsed Trump. Nicole Shanahan was married to the founder of Google and is a billionaire. And she said, hey, anybody that opposes Bobby Kennedy, I'm going to take you out of office. And she called out both Democrats and Republicans that she had supported in the past. To your question, and we have a rhino here in North Carolina, Tom Tillis. And Tillis had said just a couple of weeks ago that he would support any of President Trump's nominees who came out of their respective committee. Pete Hegseth comes out of the Armed Services Committee. What does Tillis do? Tillis then goes and starts working with this Democrat, former sister-in-law of Bobby Kennedy's, takes an affidavit from her, tells her if she gives the affidavit, he can defeat the nomination. So he's working actively to try to defeat Pete Hegseth's nomination, even after Pete Hegseth has come out of the committee. And at the end of the day, could not quite get enough votes. And he was hoping, I guess, to pull Joni Ernst back off the fence, and maybe John Cornyn or somebody. Couldn't do it, so he finally winds up voting for Pete Hegseth. I don't think the president's probably too pleased with that. But you're seeing this sort of thing. I think though Tillis and some of the other ones who are facing potentially primary challenges in 2 years, probably going to be in line pretty much when it comes to the president's nominees. But in Tillis's case, for example, in the last term, he voted to give legal protection to Robert Mueller to prevent Trump from being able to fire Mueller. Of course, I would argue that quote unquote legal protection is not constitutionally enforceable, but nonetheless, he was trying to protect Robert Mueller, who brought these sham prosecutions. I talk about that in my newest book, Kangaroo Court. And then in 2019, at that time, Trump wanted to declare an emergency at the border. Then Tillis writes an op-ed in the Washington Post opposing that. So, you've got about 6 of them. They're kind of problem children. The 3 that voted against Hegseth, and then Tillis, I would say, Kennedy out of Cassidy. I mean, they're John Kennedy out of Louisiana is a good guy. I'm talking about Bill Cassidy,
I like him, yeah.
Doctor, and then John Cornyn. They're all problem children. You never know what they're going to do from day 1 to day 2.
Something, I believe there must be a problem with my timer. There is no way over half the show is over. There is no way, but it looks like it is. Let's go into a commercial break. When we come back, let's talk about your books. We'll be right back, guys. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for 2 or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring. But the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna, and I am your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. You know, you're the reason we do this. Continue sending email, Donna@DonnasEdge.com, Donna@DonnasEdge.com. And you guys are really important to us, and you love our guests. And Don Brown, they love you.
Well,
they
not
absolutely do.
Not as much as I love them and love you and love Phil, but I really appreciate all of your viewers and listeners, and many are like-minded, some may not be, but we appreciate every viewer and listener, and it's what makes the world go around, civilized discourse, and there's a lot of good stuff here on your shows all the time, Donna, whether I'm your guest or not, and I appreciate the good work you're doing.
Well, we appreciate you. You need to talk about your latest writings. And how do you sell those?
Well, you know, you've been kind enough, and I don't have a copy of it in front of me, but Kangaroo Court was released about a week before the election. It's done very well. It's picked up a lot of discussion going on. We're seeing right now, the administration taking some action against some people who need to have action taken against them, such as General Milley. And we've had a ton of these J6 prosecutors fired, as they well should be. But I'm hoping that the premise of Kangaroo Court is time to prosecute the prosecutors. And these people like Letitia James and Jack Smith and Alvin Bragg and Fannie Willis and others need to be prosecuted, in my opinion, for a violation of civil rights under the United States Code. When Pam Bondi is finally confirmed, and she's still up on deck waiting to be confirmed, I'm hoping that we're going to see some movement toward this, Donna. We'll see how it flies.
Oh, I hope so. You know, because and you're the reason folks love guests like you is because you speak the truth. We're tired of the whiny, everybody has the same memo, read the same thing over and over again. You don't want to hear that. You want to hear the truth. I mean, things that are actually happening.
Well, that's one of the reasons President Trump is so popular, I think. Get me, he's been telling you like it is, for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And people have been looking for a refreshing change as far as all that goes. And he certainly has brought it. And people resonate. When you shoot it straight with them, they resonate. It resonates with folks. And people have yearned for people in leadership, like the president especially, to call it like they see it and stop bullying them. And there has been a real thirst for that for so many years with so many plastic politicians on both sides of the aisle. I mean, Democrats and Republicans alike allowing the political consultants to basically tell them how they should couch things or what they should talk about or not talk about. Don't talk about anything having to do with abortion because you're going to turn off a certain number of the population. Consultants have controlled most politicians, and most politicians have allowed it. And there's nothing, like my grandmama used to say. She said the best note in the chromatic scale is be natural, and I think that's true. And I've tried to live by that best I can, but I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, just be you. But, it's what the media feeds everyone. They were telling everyone, Trump is rude, Trump is this, and Trump is that. And someone walked up to me one day and said, Trump is rude. And I said, I don't think he's rude. And she said, you don't think he's rude? And I said, he reminds me of my dad. I mean, he's just like, and then she snapped back and she said, "You know, it kind of reminds me of my dad." I said, "Was your dad rude?" And she said, "No, he just told us what we needed to know." And I said, "I feel exactly the same way. I think we're hungry for that. And I'm so glad we got it back."
That's right. That's right. You know, it's kind of like Harry Truman used to say, they call him, "Give him hell, Harry." And Harry Truman would say, "I'm not giving you hell. I'm just telling you the truth. And you think it's hell," you know.
It's all in whoever. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So things that are happening right now, a lot of folks are complaining, saying the economy is still bad, blah, 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 blah. And Trump is handling things in true Trump fashion as it needs to happen. I'm with him. Of course, I would rather eggs not be, $5 a dozen or whatever they are now, $7. I would rather they not be. However, first things first, I think taking care of the border was the wise, smart thing to do. What are your thoughts?
Well, somebody asked, I don't remember who it was, but he was asked, I think shortly after he was sworn in, about priorities. And he said there were a lot of things he was having to deal with. And inflation was a big thing, the Democrats' inflation. But even a larger issue was the porous border, where we're bringing in so many illegals who are, fentanyl in and of itself is a weapon of mass destruction. As I have pointed out on a number of occasions, we lose more Americans in 1 year to fentanyl than 10 years in the Vietnam War. So that had to be shut down. And he's taking action there. But hey, when you take action like he's taking to reopen the oil and gas pipelines, that's going to have an effect to bring inflation down. And I bought gasoline today in Charlotte for $2.70 something, and you go across the border in South Carolina, it's cheaper than that. And we're seeing
$2.50 is what we paid. $2.49.9.
Gasoline prices are creeping down in large part because of the executive orders to reopen ANWR and other oil reservoirs. And so it's coming. The egg situation is a unique single item situation caused by the Democrats' action in killing chickens because they're afraid of bird flu. So just have to kind of keep that in mind. I guess I'll just have to watch my cholesterol intake for a while here, Donna, or get my cholesterol in other places.
There you go. So let's talk about the different folks that are working within the cabinet for Trump. I'd like your thoughts on those. Who's the one who's actually pulling it out that you see is just making it happen?
Right now, Pete Hegseth was one of the very first confirmed, and he is not. As you know, Donna, I know Pete, and had been communicating him through text off and on up until about a month before, all this hoopla went along. And don't expect to stay on his text chain, and that's okay. But I know the guy, know the guy's heart, know the guy that has a heart for warriors, and he worked with me very closely when we were battling for Lieutenant Clint Lawrence, the paratrooper who had been in prison because of Obama's rules of engagement. So I know the guy well and knew his heart and felt like he could be and will be our best Secretary of Defense ever. And so he has been confirmed. Trump put him at the top of the list. He went with, and there have been numerous directives about the eradication of DEI in the military, that he ordered an immediate investigation into Milley. I personally believe Milley should be brought back on the active duty and court-martialed for the calls he made to the Chinese, and probably even for his advice to lead billions of dollars worth of equipment into the Taliban, which is rendering aid to the enemy. Pete and Tom Homan were at the border today. So obviously the Defense Department has jumped on, its mission very, very quickly. Another cabinet position, is Secretary Duffy over at the Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy. And what we've seen in that case is with the two aviation disasters, unfortunately, that have taken place in the last few days, he's been forced into very, very quick, reactionary mode, but is doing a very, very, very good job of keeping those investigations moving very, very quickly on track. So I would say Duffy has had to jump into it. You wouldn't have expected that. Buttigieg made a huge mess of the Department of Transportation. You may remember, as soon as he took over, we had lines of ships lined up for miles off the port in Long Beach. And then the dude, takes weeks and weeks and weeks of quote unquote maternity leave. you know, with his quote unquote
Two
husband.
dudes who adopted kid.
What the hell? You are the Secretary of Transportation. You go on strike like that. So Duffy's had a lot, you know, to try to clean up, and hasn't, you know. So he was going to, you know, Pete was always going to take a shovel and shovel a bunch of you know what, and Duffy too. In fact, a lot of them are. But those two cabinet members are off and running to the races. Now we're waiting on several crucial picks right now. Oh, let me just add one more. Marco Rubio has been an excellent surprise. I'm surprised. Don't get me wrong, but I'm amazed at the very quick. God bless you there, Donna. At a very quick rapidity under which he has, you know, taken to the forefront to carry out the president's agenda. You know, he says, you know, this thing about Panama is no joke. He laid out the reasons that, you know, the president's interested in retaking the Panama Canal because they basically turned it over to China. Most Americans didn't know that. And like Trump said, the agreement wasn't to turn it over to China, and they're in breach of the agreement. Rubio's been leading that. Rubio's also been leading this on Greenland as well. And, of course, you know, he was very highly thought of in the Senate on both sides and got, you know, from little Marco all those years ago, now to Secretary of State. Isn't that amazing?
And he speaks the language, so that helps too.
Yeah, sure he does. And he's got a Cuban background, and he has been very, very, very impressive coming out of the gates. And I neglected to mention him earlier. You know, Pete and Duffy jumped out pretty quick because of you know, the crisis that the Secretary of Transportation is dealing with, and there's a crisis at the border. Of course, Homan has been outstanding. He's not a cabinet level pick, but he's been outstanding. We got Kristi Noem confirmed. She's going to be outstanding also. I always thought she would have been a great running mate until she decided to put in a book she shot her dog. So, but she's an impressive lady for sure. But now we're looking at Bobby. The big ones are Bobby Kennedy and Director of National Intelligence will be Tulsi Gabbard, and so those two especially. And of course, we're looking at Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, and those are the four big ones who, if confirmed, they should be confirmed, will have the most immediate impact in a number of areas of concern. With Pam Bondi, what I want to do is I want to see her go after these prosecutors. I wanted to see, we are cleaning. I mean, Trump's handed the pink slip to dozens and dozens and dozens of corrupt, politicized FBI agents already. Kash Patel and Pam Bondi both have an opportunity to really clean the political cancer out of the Department of Justice. So I'm hoping within the next week, all four of those folks, Patel, Bondi, who else did I say? Bobby Kennedy, and Tulsi will also be confirmed because they have an opportunity. But hey, at the same time, three of those four, I think Pam Bondi is going to be okay, but the other three, between Bobby Kennedy, who's the senators are taking millions and millions and millions in pharmaceutical money. They hate him because he took a stand against the COVID vax, and they hate him for a number of reasons. He's going to be a challenge. Tulsi Gabbard, they hate her for many reasons. One, because she switched parties for one thing and has caught out the deep state for what it is. And they hate her. And of course, Kash Patel, who had an outstanding performance before the committee just this past week. But he has also been very outspoken in his criticism of the Fedsurrection on January 6th, when actually the federal government incited what we saw on January 6th. Kash Patel was one of the most outspoken, proponents of getting the truth out. And so we'll have to see. Maybe the next time you're kind enough to have me on, if you are, we'll be able to look back and talk about, positive confirmations for all four of those. But that's what we're looking at right now.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so Tulsi, for instance, had the Democrats actually put her out there on the platform and really run her to be their president of choice, do you feel like we would have a different Democrat Party than we have right now had they used their brain up here and put her out there instead of this left-wing lib nut Biden?
Well, first off, nobody was going to beat Trump, but having said that, the Democrat Party has got to put forth a much more moderate face, something that is legitimately center of the road in order to survive. And the problem is that the radicals have taken control of the party. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is a radical. Chuck Schumer is a radical. These are radical, vicious power over all politicians who've taken control of the party. The reasonable voices, Tulsi Gabbard left the party. Joe Manchin left the party. Bobby Kennedy left the party. His own family's party wouldn't even allow a debate, not even a debate in the presidential race.
And no security whatsoever.
Denied him security. And so, yes, to answer your question, the party can be more viable if they had embraced someone like Tulsi Gabbard. But they haven't, which is one of the reasons that the party needs to be destroyed. Philosophically, it must be destroyed, and it needs to become part of the ash heap of history. These are English-speaking communists, the Democrat Party, and their objective has been the destruction of the constitutional republic. DEI is one of the ways they've tried to do that. You know, the whole Alinskyite, communist, Marxist approach is to divide people against people, put them in this category, that category. The more categories you can make up to inflame one category against the other, the more you can divide, the more you can control, which is what they've tried to do. And they're still about that. So I don't foresee, Gavin Newsom's a leftist. You know what I mean? Although now he's talking about a big pipeline. Isn't that funny the way a pipeline of water with Trump comes in?
I think that's funny.
Yeah,
I laughed that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the American people have a short memory. So 4 years down the road, he might try to sell himself as a moderate. He will try to sell himself as a moderate. That's what they will try to do, which is why we have to pay attention to what they're doing. But the radical element still controls the party until they can make a major change. They're primed for the picking, as far as I'm concerned.
My imagination can go absolutely wild. You know that. So this is during the funeral, Carter's funeral. And Kathleen Kamala comes in. Trump's looking at her, and she won't even look at him.
Right.
I mean, I would have looked at him and smiled or something. I mean, I would have, that's me. I would have done that. But anyway, she just sat down. And then he and Obama, it's like they're talking, and my imagination goes, wow. I bet Obama's probably saying that there's a reason she didn't win. I mean, you won over her. I mean, what do you think they said? Because they just looked at each other and started talking right after that.
Yeah, that was probably the most interesting, passage of the whole Carter funeral. What were they talking about? And I believe to this day that Jill Biden voted for Trump. I believe that to this day she
I do too.
Out on election day. Who the heck knows what Joe Biden did? He probably don't remember what he did unless she told him what to do. Uh-huh. And I'm not sure who Obama wound up voting for either. I just don't know. But they certainly didn't want her. And so the Biden people pulled a fast one, and they were forced to put her on the top of the ticket. Donna, we were talking all throughout the last year, would they replace Biden? And we discussed, if they replaced him, if they put anybody up there other than Kamala, they got a problem for themselves, because then they look like racists and misogynists. Mm-hmm. But if you put her up there, then you put in a cackling fool up there, and it's kind of a catch-22 situation.
But that's the problem.
Right.
See, if you're a racist, that's the problem, because then you've got to follow through the whole gamut. I mean, you can't just do one or two things. They had to have her out there.
Right, exactly. She says she's not done yet, so that's great.
Not done with what, cackling? I kind of miss it, though. I had my little segments where I was making fun of her.
You were good at it, Donna, and it's kind of like
miss it.
Fodder for a Saturday Night Live, which of course has become a little bit funnier actually in the last few weeks. They have the guy they have playing Trump's pretty funny, but.
I see, people get their feelings hurt too easy. I laugh at that stuff. I think it's funny, and I bet Trump does too, because he gets free advertising.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. The first one, Mr. President, it wasn't me that said all those things. It wasn't me. It was her. It was pretty funny, I have to say. So
I love it, and I miss those days. It was Saturday Night Live used to be such a fun show. I mean, I loved it in the 70s when Carter was president. You remember he had hemorrhoids, and he was going to count the And Miss Lillian, his mother. Okay, so they had her a segment. She was someone pretending to be her. And so she was packing his suitcases because he's going to Camp David. And he said, Mama, you got everything in my suitcases? And she opened it. There was like a whole thing of Preparation H. I mean, so, but those are the good old days when you made fun of everybody.
There was legitimate comedy in the 70s from Saturday Night Live. And then, like everything else, they just get more and more political. But hey, well, look, these people that Trump's a Nazi, Trump's a racist, blah 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 blah. Everybody knows that's a lie to him. You know, and to keep trying that doesn't get you anywhere. So
I love it when they say Melania is a dumb woman who just is like, she's not dumb. She speaks how many languages? Every time somebody says that to me, every time somebody sends that message, I say, how many languages do you speak?
No, right. I mean, I speak redneck and Southern, but, you know, I can speak a little Russian with a redneck accent. But listen, Melania Trump is the most educated first lady in American history.
Oh, my God, yes.
You know? And there's not even a close second.
Elegant. And so elegant.
I tell you, I love that outfit she wore on Inauguration Day with a hat. You know, she was
loved it.
Good warrior. Exactly.
It was so breakfast at Tiffany's. It was just so, I mean, it was total class. And I'm hoping we see that come back.
Yeah, absolutely. The Republican ladies look great on Inauguration Day. I said Election Day. I meant to say Inauguration Day. And I hope it's coming back too. So we'll see. And, you know, she's really a class. She went with, you know, we're very pleased here in North Carolina that Trump's first visit was to the mountains. Okay. And of course, she came with him. And we had several of our congressmen from the western part of the state, including my buddy Mark Harris, who defeated me in the Republican primary, who was invited to fly in on Air Force One. The fact that we were able to, he came to North Carolina first means a lot. Then he turns around and goes to California. Now think about that. There is, and not just to California, but to Los Angeles, the bastion of liberalism. But he's not, unlike the Democrats, he's not failing. He's not refusing to go into an area that hasn't supported him politically because they're Americans. And that press conference with Karen Bass is classic Trump and 1,000% entertainment. You don't even need Saturday Night Live. Just take a few minutes of that and put it on Saturday Night Live, you know. And but he lectured her up pretty good. And she says, we're not stopping anybody. Well, you know what? The next day, Los Angeles County issued an order that no one is to approach their houses to clean out for environmental reasons, just like Trump said, just like he said. Mm-hmm. But the Democrats will lie. They'll lie. I mean, their modus operandi is just a lie. Like Harry Reid when he made up the thing about Romney's tax return. I'm no Romney fan. But Harry Reid made that up and then later on said, well, I made it up because I could.
And it worked, didn't it? He did that. He said that, put his hands out like this and said, and it worked, didn't it?
He did say that, right. That's
so correct. You're admitting that you lied to everybody. I mean, you admit that you're a liar and you're trying to.
He did admit it. And that's exactly what they do. You know, it's anything to justify hanging on the power of his lying or killing or cheating or stealing, whatever it is. It's all about preserving power with the Democrat Party.
But in the real world, you would lose your job for that. I mean, you would be fired.
Unless you're working for the government. Yeah, you would lose your job, certainly in the private sector, without a doubt.
I've seen people fired for things I thought was a lot less worse than that.
Yeah, of course,
within the and this whole diversity thing. Now that's nothing new. When I was with GTE, and that was a good job. I loved it. I handled the government and corporate accounts, and I thought it was a fun job. It had a lot of perks to it. But the reason I left is they were bringing diversity in.
Right.
And so there was a meeting I had to go to, and it was about how to not be mean or something. I forgot. Of course, they worded it much better than I did. Right. To gay people, to gays and lesbians. So, and I was busy. I didn't have time to stay a week at headquarters to do that. So I asked my boss about that. I just called him and I said, Ed, why do I have to go to this? And he said, well, it's a diversity training, and, you know, you can't hate gays and lesbians. I said, have I ever said I hate gays and lesbians? I said, I have family members who are gays and lesbians. I don't hate them, but I don't tote a sign for them either down the street. I mean, I don't do that either. They're human beings just like everybody else is, but I don't understand why I have to. I could have been fired had I not went.
Right. Well, two things, Donna. It goes back to something I was saying earlier. When you look at the Alinskyite model, the Marxist model, is to isolate one against the other. So they make an assumption that you or me or somebody else hates gays and lesbians. Then they put gasoline on that fire. Then there's an assumption that you or me or somebody else hates whatever group you want to come up with. a minority group, or whatever, pour gasoline on that fire. There's no truth to it in most cases, but they'll create the fiction, pour gasoline on the fire. The communist Democrat media will come and try to find isolated cases to fuel the fire, to get everybody going against each other. My sister was a longtime postmaster, and she was saying that one of the reasons she decided to retire is they were, she was being forced to do all this diversity training crap, and they're simply trying to get the mail out. They're trying to get the mail out on time. But she's going to leave to go a course here, go to a course there, send her employees here and there to learn about diversity. With these diversity officers, every one of them should be fired. And by the way, the Postal Service should report directly back to the president. It's a constitutional position, and I'm hoping that all the diversity junk is going to be ripped out of that as well. You know, a few years ago, U.S. Postal Service had a private board of directors that was set up, and that stuff has got to come to an end, because what they've done is run the Postal Service into the ground.
Oh yeah, they haven't made a profit ever. I mean, when's the last time they made a profit? If that were my business, I'd have to close it down. I would not.
If you're out sending your employees to diversity training all the time, you can't make a profit, because you're taking away your ability to make a profit. And when you're obsessed on anything other than the mission itself. So, Pete Hegseth had a great comment the other day. He said, we're ending DEI in the military. He said they claimed that with DEI, diversity was our strength. Pete said that's absolutely opposite of the truth. It isn't diversity it's our strength. It's our unity that's our strength. You go back to the national motto, a pluribus unum, out of many, one. So you don't want to have troops out there with dudes wearing dresses and troops out there wearing swamis and looking like everything. You want a single uniform with a single sense of purpose, and a single mindedness, not this diversity crap. And I'm hoping that it gets all killed dead in its tracks. We've got to continue to wage war on it. I was speaking last night to a group and pointed out, we're going to have 4 years of Trump, and 2 years at least of Republican rule. We don't know what's going to happen next time, but we have to make sure that this torch that we're seeing now burns very brightly and gets carried into the future. That's why we got to wage war on this left-wing woke agenda and continue to wage war on it. We cannot afford to kind of get fat and happy and enjoy what Trump's doing without continuing to press the pedal to the metal and to take aim at these destructive philosophies that have nearly brought us to our knees.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a diversity about my own self. I'm left-handed. I feel like I have been mistreated my entire life. Those little spiral books, when everybody else, they could write in their spiral books. Well, on mine, I always had these little things right here because I was writing left-handed. So I think I'm going to start something.
I think you should, Donna. Absolutely. You need
Toughen to up, people, for goodness sakes. Toughen up. That's a bunch of nonsense. We have a little bit over a minute left in this segment. Man, time flies when you're on the show. What would you like to say before you go, Don?
Well, I mean, I would just say that now's the time we cannot rest on our laurels. The president is in office, and his first 2 weeks have been beyond anything we've seen. But we need to stay on social media. We need to continue to press the pedal to the metal. We need to continue to criticize the policies of the Democrats that have destroyed us, and we need to continue to look for candidates that are committed to the United States Constitution, so that it's cool to say I'm America first again. So now's the time not to be fat and happy, but to put the pedal to the metal and continue to press the MAGA movement, the America First movement forward, so that it doesn't end when this administration's over.
Absolutely, because if we don't, we're going to lose it again. It's not the time to stop. Absolutely. Don, thank you again so much. Website, how can folks buy your book?
Well, I mean, you can go to donbrownbooks.com and check us out there. And all my books are on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, type me in, and I'll probably pop up somewhere. And thank you guys so much for watching. Continue sending emails. They make my day. I'm up all night reading them, and I love it. Donna at donnasedge.com. Again, thank you, and have a great, great day. Bye-bye.